My daughter got pregnant young but wants me to be the baby's mother instead of her. My daughter used to be a quiet, artistic kid who struggled to fit in, but always had a kind heart. Things started to shift when she came out as non-binary at 17. It was confusing. Some days she identified as a girl, other days not at all. It wasn't something I fully understood, but I tried to keep up. Then 2 years later, she came out with something even more shocking. She was 4 months pregnant. No warning, no build-up, just a loud, angry declaration that it was my fault. She said if I had put her on hormone blockers, she wouldn't have gotten pregnant in the first place. I didn't even know that was something she'd wanted, let alone asked for. Then she hit me with something I could never have anticipated. She now viewed her baby as more of a sibling than a child. She said that because I hadn't supported her identity, it was my responsibility to raise the baby, as if it were mine. I tried to stay calm, but my tone changed. I told her, "Congratulations, Mom. You've got some serious decisions to make." I also told her clearly that I would not raise her child. I wasn't cold about it, but I was firm. She said nothing in return, just ran upstairs and slammed the door. She locked herself in and cried loudly for hours. She's got an attached bathroom and likely had snacks stashed away, so I figured she could stay there as long as she wanted. Update 1. Later that night, she packed a few things and left. Said she was staying with a friend, someone I suspected might be the father. Before she walked out, she made sure to tell me she had already called the police to inform them she was leaving of her own free will and was not in danger. As if I was going to report a 19-year-old as a runaway. I told her that if she was going to co-parent with this guy, they needed a real plan. She was always welcome back home if she had something thought out. Update tour. She and the father wanted to talk, so we met at an IHOP. I had a strong feeling who it was, and sadly, I was right. It was someone who had been in her high school friend group, the only one I ever had an issue with. They now identify as trans, but that's not what bothered me. What did was the behavior. A year ago, when my daughter's friends were over watching a movie, this person would lock eyes with me every time I walked by and make loud, suggestive sounds. The last straw was when I was in the kitchen and turned around to find them miming graphic gestures behind me. Fully clothed, yes, but still incredibly disturbing. I kicked them out. From that moment on, I referred to them privately as the nut donor, because that's all they've been good for in my daughter's life. The IHOP meeting was a disaster. This person dominated the entire conversation, launching into a list of grievances. I was poisoning my daughter with birth control. I had only helped her get the prescription and had no idea she didn't want to take it. I had supposedly damaged her by not giving her hormone blockers, which I never even knew she wanted. I was treating her like trash by not agreeing to raise the baby while she healed. The hypocrisy was hard to stomach. I was apparently a monster, but still expected to raise their child. My daughter mostly stayed silent, nodding in agreement with everything that was said. The person even pounded the table a few times. Honestly, I'm surprised we weren't kicked out. The waiter didn't even refill our drinks. When I asked why this other person couldn't raise the baby, they said their own parents had disowned them and that they were currently homeless. So 2 people without jobs, housing, or a stable relationship had created a life and wanted me to raise it. When I said no, they told me I'd never see the baby again. I was filled with a mix of heartbreak and rage. It's never a good sign when someone starts cutting off their partner's family to take control. And that's what this person was doing, turning my daughter against me while painting me as some villain. The saddest part was watching my daughter believe every word. After that meeting, I sent her a message saying I still loved her and would be there for her, but the other person was not welcome in my house. I don't think she even read it. I've probably been blocked. Update 3. I contacted the other person's parents, hoping they might have influence. They had already washed their hands of the whole thing. Weeks went by. Then one day I came home from grocery shopping and found a pregnant stranger on my doorstep. It was my daughter, but she looked like a different person entirely. She spoke rapidly, barely paused for breath, and didn't give me space to respond. Her face was covered in small tattoos, and she looked older, like she'd aged 20 years in just a few months. She had been living rough in a homeless camp with the father. She hadn't showered. She smelled awful. She had no shame about blocking my number or vanishing. All she wanted to talk about was the grand future she and this person were building, a community of new people, she said. She went on about their plans, but barely mentioned the baby. Eventually, she let it slip that this person had multiple partners and that she was just one of them. And she seemed happy about it. When I asked about the baby, she lied and said she had been going to doctor visits and everything was fine. I later found out that was completely untrue. She couldn't focus on one subject. Everything she said was scattered like she was in some kind of haze. She told me seriously that men in their group would be carrying babies too. She referred to her partner as the center of the wheel, with the rest of them as spokes. I could barely follow the logic. She claimed she sometimes wanted to keep the baby, sometimes adopt it out, not for the child's benefit, but to help spread the new people. It was the most unsettling thing I've ever heard. Having my daughter back in the house, even temporarily, was like living with a stranger. She was chaotic, erratic, and messy beyond reason. She didn't clean up after herself. She barely flushed the toilet. She helped herself to everything in the fridge without ever offering to pitch in or clean up. And she kept demanding, not asking, demanding that I take her out to eat. I caved a couple of times because I missed her and wanted to reconnect. But every time we sat down to talk, she spun out more stories about her true family, the group of new people building their so-called community, with her partner in the center. I tried to steer conversations back to reality, like baby supplies or doctor visits, but she either gave vague answers or drifted into more strange talk. Once I took her to the store to buy some essentials for the baby. She picked the first thing she saw and then went right back to talking about her group's grand destiny. Not a word about how she would care for the child. No plans, no goals. Just rants about how the baby was part of some larger mission. Eventually, I pinned her down and asked about the due date. She said mid-July, which didn't line up with her earlier claim of being 4 months along. That discrepancy had me worried. I wrote the date down just in case. I didn't know if she'd abandon the baby with me, show up in labor, or disappear again. She kept insisting she was under regular medical care. Another lie. Anytime I tried to talk seriously about the baby, she'd deflect. Her thoughts scattered so fast, she couldn't focus on a single subject for more than a few seconds. She talked about spreading the movement, how men in the group would give birth too, and how they had a psychic connection through something she called the other world. It didn't stop. Then one night, she went into labor. Her water hadn't broken yet, but she was clearly in pain. I rushed her to the hospital, and that's when things truly spiraled. At intake, it came out that she had never seen a doctor during the pregnancy. Not once. That put her in a high-risk category, and she was admitted immediately. From that moment on, she turned vicious. She lashed out at nurses and doctors, yelling horrible things at people who were just trying to help. She called herself their queen and accused them of punishing her. She was paranoid, cruel, and full of delusions of grandeur. It was heartbreaking and terrifying. I pulled a nurse aside and explained everything: the camp, the group, the unstable behavior, the likely drug use. They were incredibly professional, stayed calm, gave her something for the pain, and handled her with grace. Her blood work eventually came back clean, which stunned me. Whatever was wrong with her, it wasn't chemical. It was something deeper, psychological, emotional, or maybe both. She didn't want me in the room for the birth. Honestly, I was relieved. I had already seen too much and felt ashamed of how she had treated everyone around her. I sat down with the hospital's social worker instead and told her everything I knew. She listened kindly, but couldn't offer an official diagnosis. I told her I suspected something serious, bipolar disorder mania something, and she took notes, said she'd follow up, By some miracle, the baby was born healthy. Good weight, no complications. It was a normal delivery. I should have felt joy, but I was numb. After everything that had happened, I was just hoping the baby would be okay. Then, just hours after giving birth, my daughter left. No warning, no goodbye, no discharge papers. She simply vanished from the hospital. She left the baby behind. Because the hospital is a safe surrender location, there were no legal consequences. She won't be charged with abandonment. And honestly, it might be the best outcome the child could have gotten. Even with the flaws in the foster system, almost anything is better than growing up in a tent with two unstable parents and a makeshift cult. She never even named the father. I gave his name to the hospital staff and the social worker, but unless she confirmed it, there was nothing they could do. He won't be listed on the birth certificate. She walked away from everything. From me. From her child. From the very idea of responsibility. And I am left with this sick feeling in my chest that it will all happen again. I don't doubt for a second that she'll try to have another baby, maybe even soon. She already talked about seeding the movement and building the next generation. She's convinced she's part of something bigger. It sounds like a cult, because it is one. Whether it's formal or informal, she's surrounded by people encouraging her to abandon logic, abandon family, and abandon her child for some vague ideal of identity and revolution. It's tragic. I know she isn't well. I know she needs help. But I also know she's an adult and she made choices. She chose to cut off contact. She chose to lie to me and to the hospital staff. She chose to treat people with contempt. She showed no love or concern for the child she carried, except as a pawn in a bigger plan. I haven't written her off completely. But I've started thinking seriously about my own safety and boundaries. I may move. I'm honestly afraid that one day she'll show up on my doorstep again, not alone, but with a group of equally unstable people from the camp. She talked so casually about the wheel in the group that it's not hard to imagine them coming here. Right now, I'm somewhere between heartbreak and survival mode. I want her to wake up. I want her to come back to reality. I want her to be the person I raised, not perfect, but kind and grounded and curious. But the truth is, I don't know who she is anymore. And until she finds her way back to herself, if she ever does, I have to protect my peace. That baby, whoever they are, deserved better. I hope the foster family that takes them in gives them the love and care they never got from their own parents. That's the one comfort I can hold on to. As for me, I'm just trying to breathe, think clearly, and not drown in the shame and pain of everything that's happened. That's all I can do for now. Thank you for listening to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Also, leave a comment below to share your thoughts on what happened. Take care.